Today we're dealing with some heavy rain. Well, luckily we have all indoor work. We're going to work on that rear wheel and try to get that dent out. Now I know there's a lot of videos on YouTube with how to fix car and motorcycle wheels, but I have my own little method I want to try. And since the bulk of this video is about wheels, I can be honest and say I've painted, restored, fixed, balanced a lot of wheels in my life. And a lot of times the R1 is a good example. Just painting the wheels changes the whole look of a motorcycle. And that's what we're trying to do with the FZR. And it's really nice if you have a spare set. I'm lucky enough that on the 750 I have a spare set of wheels. When the black wheels are on the bike and you switch to the green wheels, it does change the whole look of the bike. And it's just like the RD. Anytime I put the seat cowl on, it changes the whole look of the bike. You can go in a matter of minutes, you can have a whole new motorcycle. Now the damage that's on this wheel on the FZR is a cosmetic issue. If I had a crack in the wheel or something that was structural, I'd of course buy another wheel. But this is just a cosmetic repair. It's not made to be structural. And there's a big thing whenever you're doing any kind of work. You have structural work, things that have to be done to withstand forces, and then there's things that just look pretty. So I flipped all the chargers. Miles is here today with us for the whole day. We're going to have bagels for breakfast and pancakes and vitamins and I don't even know what. When he's here, the day gets very unpredictable. But I do want to work on that back wheel today. That might even be a 2-day job, I don't know. And I do remember Glenn's Ducati painting the wheels. When we put the gold wheels on his ST, it looked just dynamite. Changed the whole look of the bike. And just to remember a mistake I made with these wheels, for some reason, when I was doing these wheels, I never realized how much of this you see. And I didn't really, until at the very last minute, and I said, whoa, I better, don't forget to dress off in there and sand it smooth. And I had the same thing on the FZR. I forgot to do it right to the last minute, but it's all taken care of now. And on any motorcycle, there's things you see right away, things you hardly see at all, and then things you don't see. So I try to focus most of my energy on the things, just like when you polish an engine, on the parts you see. The bottom of the oil pan, I wouldn't spend too much time. And one final thing, we've been trying to help Scott resolve some problems out in Colorado with an exhaust system that he's got funny corrosion on, or something happening to it. And we're looking forward to trying to come up with a solution for that as a side benefit. Now, as you can imagine, I'm dying to get in out of the cold, get in, have some nice warm coffee, and I'm ready to start working on that wheel. And it's still raining and icy and everything's melting up out here, and there's still ice everywhere. It's a great day to be inside. We sequenced this up perfectly. And the snow is melting little by little. What could be better than bagels, coffee, a puzzle, and Miles? What a breakfast! Wow. Puzzle. How many vitamins? 4. Okay, so feed me, Seymour. Come on. You think that's funny when you have a sleepover and you feed me vitamins? That funny? Wow, look at that. He's got his full baseball. You going to the batting cages? Wow, look at this guy. Aaron Judge. So as I come down to shop, the primary thing I wanted to look at this morning, Glenn's JB Weld is drying up on the tank. We'll let that dry an extra day. That'll just make it super easy to sand. The other parts that we've refinished, and boy am I glad I finished in here, because I need to get the wheel to match the other side. We'll see that. A part that we will see. This part, the brake stay, we're going to see. I just got to pull a tape off that. But the main thing is the wheel, that repair on the wheel. Now, when I originally laid out all the things I wanted to do with the FZR restoration, the wheel was right up there at the top of the list, as well as the front wheel, of course, and we want to get them to match. And since we've spent so much time on the front wheel, it would be a shame in some way to compromise the back wheel and not have it every bit as nice as the front wheel. And I have thought about how I wanted to do this cosmetic repair. I'm ready to do it right now. So if you look at this right now, and again, just for people that this might be the only video they've seen in the series, I want to back it up. I have the bike many, many years, 7, 8 years, I don't know. A long time anyway. I've put over 25,000 miles on it since I got it. And what I want to do now is, I've never had the tire lose air. I've never had an out of balance condition. And I've done 3+ years of track days with the bike. So we're ready. Now this is just a cosmetic repair. Now to do a cosmetic repair like this, it sounds like it would be easy. And a lot of people have just suggested just put on some Bondo and we want to be a little more scientific about that. But first thing I'm going to have to do, of course, is pull a tire off. But then I want to measure this angle so that if I run a ruler across this, I can't do it with the tire here, I have this exact height. The diameter, I'll make another little fixture, a jig, to get the diameter right. See, because what happens when you look at this dent, because it's been pushed out like a plate in the accident that the bike apparently had, or maybe this guy just took a bite out of it when he was changing tires, I don't know. But anyway, it looks like we'll be able to make this absolutely perfect. Now, the first thing, of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little mold of this profile. And I'll show how I do that. That's a relatively simple thing to do. I had thought of many, many ways of doing this with JB Weld, Bondo, CA, and I don't know until I actually start doing it what's going to be the most practical way to do it. But the idea is I've spent a lot of time in here to get that part right. I've got to back mask the screw holes, and I've got to be able to get the tire off. So I guess the first thing is, now that we've had a breakfast with the family, we've had a bagel, I'm loaded with energy, let's get that tire off. Now as I'm getting ready to pull a tire, I didn't want to forget to back mask these little pieces. It's just one of the things that I don't want to have to take paint off of this if I don't have to. And if I forgot to do this, I'd have to scrape it all with a razor. I can think of things that would be a lot more fun than that, that's for sure. Once these are done, now a big part of pulling a tire, it's ambient temperature now. If it was the temperature, if I just brought this wheel in out of the garage, then we'd really have a job. Because it's ambient temperature, it shouldn't be difficult to change this tire. I pull this out, we know the bearing has at least not gotten a lot of the grit from the work that we've done so far. And I can put a brand new piece of masking tape. I'll clean that up. The back masking part of this is always, it's always part of the job you have to do whether you like it or not. I want to get anything that's still on here, the residue from the tape, get that cleaned out. Plus we're going to have to put this on the wheel balancer. Step one, of course, let the air out of the tires. We got a little tool to pull the valve out, the valve stem out. Here's a really good tip. When you go to take the valve stem out, it's a good idea to pull this out. It presses out, of course, because here's what happens when you have the valve stem out. If that piece is in here, it can scratch the wheel. What happens, this comes around, if you're not careful, after we put all this time into the wheel, I sure don't want to have that. And this is all I need to put the valve stem back in. And when I got the valve stem, I could put that piece back in and just do it the last little turn to tighten it up. This is something that'll save a big gouge in your wheel at some point in time. Now whenever I use the Harbor Freight bead breaker, you can see what I've done. I put layers of Gorilla Tape in spots that may tend to scratch the wheel. I put an extension on a handle. It's really a fork tube from a dirt bike. It just gives me a little more leverage. And anywhere that could potentially scratch the wheel, now in this case we don't really care. The wheels are not painted, but from this point on, even an extra towel on the wheel, the bead breaker, is a good investment. Anything you can do, the whole objective of everything here is not to scratch the rim. Thing I want to do is just clean up the bead area. Pretty cut and dry. We'll go over to the wire wheel and clean some of the goop up. Try to clean this up. We got to remove the tire valve yet, and then we're going to start working on this repair. Remember, this is a 30-year-old wheel, so I want to get rid of all the corrosion, and the corrosion gets right in these little valleys in here. I don't want to have this corrode any more than necessary. It only takes a minute or two to get that corrosion out and make a nice corrosion-free place for that tire to seat. Now again, this is one of the things we found the long brush very useful for. Using Curvy Girl valve stems, and never use Loctite on them, and never over tighten them to the point that you can't get the just enough that you can't turn the valve stem, and you're fine. Now if you look at this part close and you rub your hand on it, you can see it's out of dimension in 3 areas. It's squashed out, so there's material has to be trimmed off the edge. It's pressed down, so we have to build up this rim with some material, as yet to be decided. And then we need to flatten this out, and then I want to get this contour exactly perfect. Now, because of modeling, I probably have a little bit better than average skills of shaping and carving and stuff. Maybe, maybe not, your opinion. But I do know I can stack the deck in my favor to make this perfect by making a little mold out of this part. And then by using that part, I can tell if I've got it accurate or not, because when this wheel is spinning, I don't want to see it doing, you know, a snake dance. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take some cling wrap, put it over the mold, over the wheel here, and take a little Bondo and make a little mold of this. All I need is this little area right here. And this is typical modeling technology. When you carve any part out of balsa wood, it's no different carving out of aluminum. It's just a little more difficult to carve. So that's the first thing. I want to make that mold. And while that mold is drying, I can make a template. See, I'm trying to do this, sequencing it up. I'll make a template of this exact diameter. It'll tell me exactly how much material has to come off of that. And doing this repair is basically modeling technology. So I've taped down a piece of cling wrap, about 3 inches long. That's all I need, because I want to get it, mold enough Bondo in here and put a little handle on it. I cut a little piece of wood that I have this exact shape. And it's that shape that's going to be critical. Then I can put, once this is done, I can put sticky back sandpaper on it and get my final shape in there. We've been using 4CR 2100. This has been great Bondo. This is real. I've used this on the whole FZR project. Really worth the extra money. A little more money than AutoZone stuff. This is glass filled. It's really good stuff. The saran wrap, I'll call it, for lack of a better word, the Bondo won't stick to the wheel. The tape holds it in place. I'm going to trim this away with a saw, clean this all up, and when that's dry, that should give me this exact radius, because you can see as I go over to the repair area, this is going to take, and I want to get that just perfect. And this will be like a little sanding jig, just to get, all I need to get from that is that radius. But now, while this is drying, I guess I'll have another cup of coffee, and it's until it hardens up. It's usually 15-20 minutes, and I can work on it. Now, I'm not sure you can see, but this will be, if I put a little piece of sticky back sandpaper on this, this will exactly give me that radius in the final, when I get the final shaping, even in the primer. That'll be a useful tool. Doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. Alright, so we have that little jig. Now the hardest part of this, I want to make a template with this exact radius, because some of this material has to come off. I can even feel it with my hand. But I don't want to take more off than I have to. It's important. I don't want to make a divot the other way. So I'm going to do this very carefully, very gradually. What I have is a piece of ordinary modeling 64th plywood, nothing special about it. And I want to very carefully pick up this radius. Go over to the saw this out accurately. And it's that radius then that I can transpose out onto here once I cut this out. I'll get rid of this, sand this edge smooth, and that'll be my template. Now I have a really good representation of that. Now I can come over here and see, wow, now see how much that material has to come off. So now I can really lay this on here and get a real accurate idea of how much has to come off. In fact, I can just scratch it and see if I'm close. Wow, that's quite a bit of material's got to come off. But anyway, we'll work up to it very, very carefully. Just to make the scratch a little more visible, I put a piece of tape on this. I've got my angle just right. And what I want to do is work right up to, but not go past, the pen line. And that's going to show me, and you can look at that close, how much of that material has to come off. Now that's the amount of material that has to come off in this dimension, in the radius dimension. I'm going to take that off very, very carefully and not try to do it all in one shot. Now I'm working it back here with the template, and I've got it ever so close. I'm really right. I'm just trying to pick up any high spot I have is right here. Yeah, pick the high spot up where I can rock this. Then I can just, at the end, I'm going to do it all by hand, but I'm just taking off big amounts of material now. And I'll do this over and over again until a template fits exactly the way I want it. And we're really getting close now. Now, if you look here, and I'm laying a straight edge across, you can see how much material we're out. So I'm going to have to account for, I'm going to have to figure a way of getting that thickness of material up in this area. And that's why I made that little gizmo, because I want to, of course, get this radius. I don't want to see this wrong, but I've got to build this up. I'm going to try building it up with JB Weld, put a little bit more on than I have to, only for the reason that I want to be able to grind down into it and sand down into it. Now again, I can use my template. It's not only accurate to the diameter, but it's accurate this way. I can see I've got at least 3/16 of an inch to build up in material, and I've got to get it in here. So it's going to be a little tricky, but nothing we're not going to be able to do, that's for sure. So the first thing is to roughen everything up that's going to be even near it, so that the JB Weld gets a good bite. Most important, never put JB Weld on something very smooth. And what we'll do here is just preheat the part just a little bit, so that the JB Weld gets a better molecular bond. Now we got the radius on this is fine now. The only issue we have now is this way, but this radius this way is really close. It'll be difficult to show on camera, but what I'm going to try to do is build a dam up so that the JB Weld, this shows me the correct height. I'm not sure that's going to work the way I want. I'm going to use stiffer tape, because I want this to be that I don't have any, when it's drying, go over the edge here. I wonder if that's going to work. And of course the edge of it we're going to sand away anyway, but that gives me the height. Let me show this. See, the tape is showing me how much material I have to put on there, so maybe I'll just get, I don't know, maybe some Gorilla Tape would be the answer here. And I put a piece of Gorilla Tape just to act as a dam, so I don't have that going over it. I tried 3 or 4 different kinds of tape. The blue tape isn't strong enough. This looks better. Now I'll be able to get the JB Weld right up in there and fill this little amount. See, I'm trying not to put so much on that I have to spend all day sanding it because I have that little jig now. So just the slightest little bit, I'll try to shape it by hand as it dries. And when this is dry, the JB Weld will be stronger than the aluminum. That's another good thing. I wouldn't want to do this with Bondo or CA or anything. JB Weld. And not the 5-minute JB Weld, real JB Weld. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, JB Weld is sold everywhere, even in Lowe's. It's really steel reinforced epoxy. The strength is 3,009, I didn't even know that. Sets in 4 to 6 hours. I prefer to let it dry overnight because I want to shape it. So if you were doing a repair that you even need a higher end adhesive than JB Weld, there's Marine Tex, which you can buy, Marine TEX. You can buy from West Marine. You can fix engine blocks and different things with that. JB Weld is good up to whatever. I very seldom break what I fix, if ever. But the trick is warm the part, just warm it to the touch. You don't need a heat gun, you don't need to make it cherry red hot or anything, just warm. Warm is always good. Take the material itself, warm it just a little bit. You'll see it gets shiny at some point in time. If you see a bubble, you've gone too far. Right there, I'm starting to see bubbles, that's it. Now I've got it very liquidy. Now it's going to get into every molecular nook and cranny. As I put it on there, go right up against the tape, which is acting like a little dam of sorts. May have to do this in 2 applications, but it doesn't matter, we're not having a race. And of course my goal is just to fix the wheel, so it's as good as I can make it. Okay, now down in there I need to get a little extra material. And we're going to let this dry. They say 12 to 16 hours to cure. Well, I like overnight the best. And since we're not having a race, we'll let this sit there. Tomorrow morning when we come down, this will be ready to sand. And like spackle, there's no point making it too fancy. What we're going to do is come back to this tomorrow. The JB Weld will be hardened up. We'll use that little tool to shape it, final sand it, and probably, assuming it doesn't rain or snow, we should be able to get the wheel final sanded and primed. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.